Following program are those of the participants and not necessarily those of this station or its sponsors.
Hi, I'm Wally George, and I have John White here from the California Republican Youth Caucus. Don't miss it. Stay with me.
It's time for the award-winning Wally George Show, starring Wally George, with a hard-hitting, controversial, and informative look at what's really happening in America today. And now, ladies and gentlemen, here he is, television's conservative voice, Wally George.
Okay, thank you so much, Glenn Edwards. And wherever you are across this great land of ours, thank you for being with us. We are now in our 6th year. I remember when we started this program 6 years ago, that conservative guy won't last 13 weeks. Well, we're now still in 28 cities all across America. You in Atlanta, Georgia, who are watching us, Washington, D.C., Indianapolis, Indiana, and right here in Southern California on Channel 56. This is our home base in Anaheim, Channel 56, KDOC TV, beaming out all across this country. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and all that, because, you know, stations around the country play this at different times. Some don't play it at all, much to my dismay. Anyway, it's nice to have you here with us. This is the only conservative voice on the air answering those liberals week after week, and somebody has got to do it, folks. Now, John White is here with me, president of the California Republican Youth Caucus, and he's going to tell you why he thinks Ronald Reagan should be reelected. Or does he think that? Does he think that the youth across America are going to vote for Ronald Reagan? What kind of a job is the president doing, in his opinion? So on. Okay. John White will be here. David Kennedy, our associate producer, normally here, has never missed a show in years, is missing this show. He had an important appointment he had to keep business-wise. And so sitting in for David is his wife, Joanne Kennedy. So lovely Joanne will be here as we get into the mailbag segment later on in the program, answering letters from you all across the country. Now, before we get into that, let's do my commentary of the day. And, you know, we have now seen literally dozens of films and tributes to the late President John F. Kennedy. I know I'm going to get mail on this, but I have to tell you, I'm tired of the whole thing. I really am. I can't see why, in the first place, John Kennedy is being portrayed over and over and over again as a saint, as a great president, as a fantastic leader, as an inspiration to us all. I firmly believe, folks, that if John Kennedy had not been assassinated, we would be looking at him in an entirely different light. Really. He was no saint. It is well known that John Kennedy was not even a moral man. He spent more time making love to women than to thinking about being president of the United States. Right in the White House, it's documented, he was indulging in all kinds of love affairs, and I quite frankly think this is a disgusting way to behave as president. Why do we keep hearing what a great family man he was? What a wonderful husband he was? It's nonsense. It's not true. Ask Jackie. And John Kennedy was not even a great president. He made many mistakes, the worst probably the infamous Bay of Pigs disaster. John Kennedy's main asset was his charm, his wit, and his great charisma. It is because this charming president was shot and killed right before our very eyes on TV that we keep hearing about what a martyr he was. Yes, he is. He was a martyr, but he is no saint. The whole Kennedy family is looked up to as some kind of royal family here in America, and that's wrong in my opinion. Teddy Kennedy has gone right along in the Kennedy tradition. Weakness, indecisiveness, and immorality. We're all sorry, heartsick, that John and Bobby Kennedy were assassinated. But we have paid our respects now for 20 long years. We have mourned and fretted and cried year after year, especially in the media. Let's put an end to it. Enough is enough. I'll be back. Welcome back. I'm Wally George. And remember, call your friends and tell them to watch this show on the channel you're watching. Tell them what time we're on and all that. So we want to build this audience more and more as we go along year after year. I have a good guest for you. You'll be interested in meeting John White. He's the president of the California Republican Youth Caucus. Welcome, John.
Thank you. It's nice to be here.
You know, John, if you would listen to the media across the country, you would think not one person, young person, favors Ronald Reagan for president.
Well, fortunately, that's not true.
And you are living proof of that, correct?
Yes, I hope so.
Tell me briefly, and the folks across America, what is the California Republican Youth Caucus? What are you trying to do?
Well, the California Republican Youth Caucus is an organization that evolved because of an in-strife within the party. And what we saw was parliamentary procedure, platforms, dividing these organizations. So what we decided to do is do a few things and do them correctly. And what we do is we identify, we train, we communicate, and we put young people in jobs where they can elect good conservative candidates.
Now, Brian, get a close-up of this guy over here, because you are looking at, I would bet you anything, a future candidate. Look at that face. There he is. He's an attractive guy, a Mike Curb type. Tell me the truth. Tell America, John, are you going to one day run for office?
Well, I'd like to take one thing at a time and get this done first.
Don't play coy with me, John. Are you going to run for office someday, or are you not?
Well,
way in the back of your mind, do you think you'd like to?
Looking at some of the candidates, that may not be a bad idea. But truly, I'd like to take one step at a time and
listen,
do this correctly.
We need people like you in office. I know about you. I think you'd be a good candidate. Think about it, because I'd get behind you. I'll tell you. It's another Mike Curb we got here, folks. Now, let me ask you this. Why do you think, as a young person, that Ronald Reagan should be reelected?
He's doing an excellent job. He's done the best job in recent history. He's a great president.
Yeah.
It's nice to see a president in the office.
It's nice to see a man as president,
yes.
who has some strength behind him.
Yes.
Do you think, John, that Republicans and Democrats as a whole will support the majority of the youth in America? Do you think they're going to get behind Ronald Reagan in 1984?
It's hard to see the youth getting behind anything these days. That's why it makes an organization like this even more important. We can focus the limited activism and direct it in a productive way. I think there's going to be a lot of visible Reagan people out there. There were last time. You didn't hear a lot about it, but they were on the campus and they were working hard. And that's one of the reasons why Ronald Reagan was elected.
Well, there are people around the country who have criticisms of Ronald Reagan. Even some Republicans say Ronald Reagan should come out now, so he'll get more females to vote for him, should come out now and reverse himself and support the ERA. Would you like to see him do that?
I wouldn't like him to see him do that. I think he's supporting women in a real good way. He's appointed women to this cabinet. He's appointed women to the Supreme Court. He supports women. Where's this criticism coming from?
Well, then people say, though, but then why won't he get behind the ERA? I know you don't support it. Tell us why you don't support the ERA.
Well, I support equal work for equal pay and that, but I think the ERA would be a loss of rights for women.
Yeah.
I don't think that they'd be gaining a lot. I think they have, through the dialogue and everything, I think they've obtained most of what they were seeking anyway. What's left, it seems to be to me, is a bunch of radical ladies that are looking for something to do. I don't know.
You know, John, you keep hearing the gender gap. Oh, Reagan has got to close this gender gap. It is my opinion, from the mail I get from all over this country, really the majority of my viewers are ardently supporting Ronald Reagan. I mean, men and women. I don't think there is a big gender gap. Do you?
No, I don't think so. I think a lot of times the majority is not heard. It's just they're not out there making pickets and making a fool of themselves.
Well, certainly the big mouth feminists like Gloria Steinem and Jane Fonda and all those jerks, I mean, they're not going to support him, but Ronald Reagan doesn't want their support. It's the average American housewife out there and the thinking, working women who are supporting him because they know Ronald Reagan makes sense.
Well, he made sense. That's why he was elected, and that's why he's going to be reelected. Inflation's down, interest rates are down. I can almost afford gas.
Listen, we also hear a lot of criticism coming because Ronald Reagan still supports Jim Watt. They think he should cut that. What do you think?
Jim Watt was an excellent man. He was a great patriot. He had the interest of the United States at heart, and I think he had the future of America through his land policies and his conservation. He was a real conservationist, and people don't know that.
I think his one mistake was that he tended to shoot from the hip with his mouth. I think he said a few things that were probably unfortunate, probably embarrassed the president. But as Secretary of Interior, I think he did a good job.
I think he had some funny jokes, and I don't understand all the flack that he got from some of that. Him and the guy from Agriculture last time. I don't know.
A couple of things I thought were a little in bad taste. But
Yes.
let's look at his... Who doesn't say something that they're... I say things that I'm embarrassed about every week. On this coast to coast, I embarrass myself almost every week. So what's the big deal? But I want to ask you this now, as time is rolling along. Ronald Reagan, once again now, has criticism for his foreign policy. They say he's going to lead us into another war. We're going to get into another Vietnam. We should pull all of our troops out of Lebanon right now, get out of Central America. How do you answer that?
That's the best way to create a war.
Exactly. What I have been saying week after week, John, is if we do that, if we withdraw right now from all over the world, what we are really saying is to the Soviet Union, okay, we're not going to stop you. We're going to sit here and let you do anything you want, take any country you want, and we're not going to do a damn thing about it. What's going to happen then? We are going to have a communist world, and I mean a communist takeover of the United States of America.
We're real close to it now.
We are so close, it's frightening, John.
Oh.
We are so close.
People don't realize it.
You think we had a Cuban crisis with John F. Kennedy, the missile crisis. I mean, the crisis we're facing now that Ronald Reagan has to look at is worse than anybody out there realizes. Don't you agree?
I certainly agree.
And the only way that we're going to fight this is with strength.
Yes.
What do you think about our policy now in El Salvador and the invasion or liberation, if you will, of Grenada? Was that a correct move?
Well, it's nice to see us not being walked over all the time.
Yes.
Protecting our people and saying no.
Right.
They've had free slate for years, and it's got to be stopped sometime.
All right. Now let's look at the coming election.
Yes.
Jesse Jackson is now a presidential candidate. Some political pundits, and of course some of these pundits I could forget about, but they are saying, I want to get your reaction to it, Jesse Jackson is going to register millions of blacks in America, and that is going to mean the turning point which will defeat President Reagan. What do you think?
Well, I'd like to see everyone register vote. There's not enough participation in the election system, so I can't be against that per se. For registering people to vote.
But why are people like Jesse Jackson, why are the black leaders in America so stridently against Ronald Reagan, saying that he is bad for minorities? Why do you think that is?
I think they're following the system that they've grown up in, and they don't understand the real story. I think if they were to look at it in a correct perspective, they see that this is really the party they should be with.
I think so too. You see, as I have said many, many times on this program, the policy of the Democratic Party is, with minority is, vote for us. We'll make sure you get your welfare check. We'll take care of you for the rest of your life. And what has happened is, under Democrats, there have been generations living on welfare. I mean, one generation after another. And the Democrats have encouraged this. What Ronald Reagan has done and the Republican Party has tried to do is to say, look, that's not right. You don't want to live on handouts the rest of your life. You want to go and get some respect and earn yourself a living. You don't want to go on generation after generation living on handouts. What the Democratic Party has said for years, and I'm so opposed to it, is let Big Brother take care of you. You vote for us, and we'll make sure you get that paycheck. I think that's wrong.
Well, that's how they're winning. You know, it's easy to get something for free. If I vote for you, I'm going to have a handout, and that's not in their best interest, and it's not in the country's best interest.
Who do you see, John, as the strongest candidate on the other side to run against Ronald Reagan? Who do you think would give Reagan the toughest battle among all the candidates? Well, certainly not George McGovern.
It's really hard to say it so early, but for name ID, John Glenn has to be in there. But as far as party structure, Mondale is very popular and strong. So it's a big, wide open field.
Would you think Mondale would be the strongest candidate to oppose?
I think he'd be the worst candidate. He's there'd be a.
But I mean, would he give Reagan the most trouble? Of all the candidates.
Of all the candidates? Yeah. I don't know.
All right. One more question real quick. Why are you proud to be a Republican?
I'm proud to be Republican because it stands for what America stands for, the free enterprise system and the right to achieve. And we don't guarantee that, but you have the opportunity to make it. And as long as those rights are guaranteed, we'll have an America.
You've just been listening to John White. Anybody out there across the country, here in California or anywhere, who would like more information about the California Republican Youth Caucus, especially you here in California, write to me. I'll give you my address in a few minutes, and we'll forward your letters to John White and the California Republican Youth Caucus. Thank you, John. You just saw a future candidate, whether you know it or not. And I'll be right back in a moment. Joanne Kennedy is going to join me as we look into the mailbag and answer your letters. Don't go away. Thank you very much. We want to hear from you wherever you are across America. Write to us and tell us what you think, your comments and questions. Maybe we'll read your letter on the air. My address is just Wally George, Post Office Box 787, Hollywood, California, 90028. Wally George, P.O. Box 787, Hollywood, California, 90028. Okay. Now, you know, this is kind of a strange moment for me because normally for the past, how long has it been? About 4 or 5 years I've been saying, and now it's time for my good friend and associate producer, David Kennedy. I'm looking over now at Mrs. David Kennedy, Joanne Kennedy. Hi, Joanne.
Hi, Wally.
Where is David? Goofing off now or what?
Oh, he's goofing off, yes.
Can you imagine missing a program?
Putting me on the spot right here.
Telling me that he's out on a special business appointment. I bet you he's out playing golf somewhere. No, he wouldn't do that, would he?
No, no way.
I'm sure David wouldn't have missed this show if he could have helped it, right?
No, he wouldn't.
But I'm so glad to have you here. You're looking great.
Oh, thank you.
And
it's nice to be here. I'm usually on the other side of the lights cheering you on.
And you've been watching for years now, haven't you?
Long time.
And you and David have been good friends to me and great supporters. And I want to thank you publicly on the air and across America for the wonderful friendship that you and David have offered to me for nigh on to 7, 8, 9 years now.
Oh, thank you, Wally. We enjoy knowing you. Great man.
Thank you so much. Now let's get to our mailbag, Joanne. This is something new for you. Let's get and see what kind of questions we have. Asking good old Wally now from across America. Go ahead.
Here's for good old Wally.
Uh-oh.
This is from Jean Morrow of Rockford, Illinois.
Okay.
I watched you for the first time last week. You are a miserable, rotten, racist pig. Your program will never make it. I give you 13 weeks at most.
Hey, well, isn't that a wonderful thing? Oh, thank you for making my day. Listen, I have news for you. What's the name of that person?
Jean Morrow.
I have news for you, Jean. This man is no racist, never has been, never will be. I call them the way they are. If I happen to criticize somebody who happens to have darker skin than you and I, does not cause me to be a racist. I criticize anybody, white, black, yellow, brown, whatever. If they deserve to be criticized, I'm going to do it. I'm not going to hold back if a person happens to have darker skin. Don't you dare ever call me a racist. I am the last person you call that to. And I'll tell you, I only criticize people when they deserve to be criticized, no matter what their color may be. And as far as you just tuning us in for the first time, and you telling me that this program is not going to last more than 13 weeks, I have news for you, Gene. We're in our 6th year. Where have you been? And I've been on your station that you're watching right now for 5 years. Happy New Year. Let's get to our next one, okay?
Yes, you told her, Wally.
Yeah.
The next one is from Nancy Farrow of Laguna, California.
Hope this is a little better than the last one there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is it true that your daughter is Rebecca De Mornay, the star of the R-rated movie Risky Business? If so, how could you let your daughter be in such a film?
Well, I knew that was going to come up because some of the columnists wrote that. Yes, indeed. They're going to be doing a thing on that in the National Enquirer. Yes, my daughter is Rebecca De Mornay, and I'm proud of her. I've known her a long time, all of her life. And as far as Risky Business goes, I didn't see anything that wrong with it. I did not approve very much of the language. There's a little bit of stuff in there that I wasn't too fond of, but I thought my daughter did an outstanding job in that picture. I think she's a brilliant actress. She's a beautiful young lady, and I think she has a tremendous career ahead. Now, if I could have been the one to pick the picture that Rebecca would have debuted in, perhaps I wouldn't have picked that picture. Perhaps I would have been a little more pleased with something a little more G-rated. But I am not ashamed of my daughter. There was nothing she did in that picture that I feel at all ashamed about. I love her dearly. I'm proud of her. And if you want to try to get to me through Rebecca, you're not going to do it. I love her. I support her. She's a full-grown woman. She's 21 years of age. She's making her decisions. And I'll tell you one thing about Rebecca De Mornay. She is a very wonderful, moral girl. And I couldn't be a prouder father. I wonder if you saw the picture, Risky Business.
I did, Wally. I really enjoyed it. It was a well-done film, and Rebecca did a fine job in it. Lovely girl. I've seen pictures that were worse with better ratings, so I don't understand really why they rated it like that.
This person obviously wants to throw a few darts. Let's get in one more letter here while we have time.
Okay, one more. Jim Friedman from Waterloo, Iowa. I heard you say that Walter Mondale is a nitwit and not capable of being president. How can you say that?
It's easy. I'll say it again. Walter Mondale is a nitwit and should not run for president. I'll be right back. I want to invite all of you to become members of my Voice of Patriotism organization. You can help me spread this voice all across America onto more and more stations and more cities by becoming my partner in patriotism. You can become a member, just $25 for a one-year membership, $150 for a lifetime membership. Make your checks payable to Wally George Productions, and here's my address. Wally George Productions, P.O. Box 787, Hollywood, California 90028. That's P.O. Box 787, Hollywood, California 90028. I'm looking forward to hearing from you. I really do want to hear from you because we need your help. All right, if you believe in what we're trying to do, get behind us and join hands. Join us again next week. A very informative show for you. Until then, keep your faith, always believe. Believe in the sun, even when it does not shine. Believe in love, even when it is not shown. And most of all, my friends, believe in God even when he does not speak. May God bless all of you. See you next week.